Gang removed as Foreign Minister of China. 2 of 4 sisters injured in Sunday's Seowan-shan fire die in hospital. And protests continue in Israel after Parliament approved the first major law in curbing some Supreme Court powers. Hello and welcome to TVB News. China's top legislature voted to appoint Wang as foreign minister and Pan Gongsheng as central bank governor. Qin Gang was removed from the post of foreign minister. Qin made his last public appearance as foreign minister in June in Beijing, where he met with officials from Sri Lanka, Russia, and Vietnam. He was absent during the ASEAN summit in Jakarta this month, with Wang filling in for him. The foreign ministry has since said Qin is off for unspecified health reasons. The 57-year-old has served the foreign ministry for over 3 decades. He was appointed the foreign minister in December last year and then promoted as state councillor in March. China's top leadership has pledged to adjust and optimize policies in a timely manner for the property sector. It also vowed to boost domestic consumption demand and resolve local debt risks. The state-run news agency Xinhua said the pledges were made at a meeting of the Politburo, a top decision-making body of the Communist Party. The July Politburo meeting typically sets the tone for China's economic policies for the second half of the year. Hong Kong and mainland China stock markets today cheered the policy pledges, outperforming broader Asia-Pacific benchmarks. The Hang Seng Index climbed 4.1%, while the Shanghai Composite rose over 2%. Hong Kong-listed tech giants gained 6%, while mainland property developers surged over 14%. Goldman Sachs expects Chinese authorities to roll out a combination of monetary, fiscal, property, and consumption support measures in the next few months. The Hong Kong Observatory said the standby signal number 1 may be issued tomorrow as Super Typhoon Doksuri draws nearer to the region. Mimo Sangai reports.
As Super Typhoon Doksuri approaches, the city experiences another scorching summer day. Many districts recorded temperatures of around 34 degrees Celsius or higher. The Super Typhoon Doksuri is centered around the northeast of Manila, and it is predicted to move onto the northeastern part of the South China Sea on Wednesday before reaching the eastern part of Guangdong on the southern part of Fujian. The observatory said further storm signals will depend on the distance of Doksuri from the Pearl River estuary. Doksuri's track and position shows the typhoon entering the South China Sea via the Luzon Strait.
Sea surface temperature, right? You know that tropical cyclones, in particular typhoons, gain the energy from the ocean. Right now, over most part of the Western Pacific to the east of Luzon, the sea surface temperature is well above 30 degrees. So that is very, very warm. So it supplies ample moisture and power to Doksuri. The structure of Doksuri is very symmetrical, which hinted that there is no vertical wind shear. The wind speed and wind direction at different levels of the atmosphere are different to the extent that it can distort the structure of the typhoons. Right now, this is not happening. So this is conducive to further intensification of the typhoon.
The observatory predicts the extreme hot temperatures to remain for the next 2 days before heavy rain and wind arrive in the city on Friday and Saturday. Memos 9, TVB News.
2 of the 4 sisters injured during a fire at Seollok Estate in Seowan-shan on Sunday have died. The eldest sister was pronounced dead at 11 p.m. on Monday night, and the youngest died this evening. According to the police, the 4 sisters became embroiled in a dispute on Sunday over the sale of a housing unit. The 57-year-old eldest sister, who was the owner of the flat, was suspected to have hurt one of the younger sisters with a knife. A fire then reportedly broke out. The youngest sister was 46. The surviving sisters remain in hospital in serious and critical conditions. Japanese police have arrested a woman and her parents in connection with a gruesome murder case. The crime happened in a popular night entertainment district in the northern city of Sapporo, where a headless man was found in a hotel room early this month. Police said they arrested a 29-year-old woman and her father on Monday on suspicion of conspiring to kill a 62-year-old man in the hotel and relocate his severed head in the middle of the night. The woman's mother was arrested today on suspicion of conspiring with her family to transport and keep the head at home. Investigators said security camera footage shows the victim entering a hotel room with another person a day before his body was found. Climate activist Greta Thunberg was found guilty of disobeying Swedish police on Monday and fined 2,500 kroner. The incident occurred when Thunberg and other youth activists from the Reclaim the Future movement disobeyed police by blocking the road during an environmental protest at an oil facility last month. The 20-year-old admitted to the facts but pleaded not guilty, saying the fight against the fossil fuel industry was a form of self-defense due to the global threat of the climate crisis. "We cannot save the world by playing by the rules," she told journalists after the verdict. After leaving court, she went back to the oil terminal to stage another roadblock and was again removed by police. Still ahead, protests in several Muslim countries after the burning of the Quran in Sweden and Denmark. An immigration department crackdown on a syndicate that produced fake work contracts for foreign domestic helper visa applicants. And the week-long Hong Kong book fair comes to an end. Welcome back. In Denmark, two protesters from an ultra-nationalist group set fire to a copy of the Quran outside the Iraqi embassy in Copenhagen Monday. This after a similar political group in Sweden burnt a copy of the Quran over the weekend. The incidents have sparked protests in several Muslim countries, including Iraq, Yemen, and Pakistan. Tracy Furness has more.
Hundreds of people gathered in Baghdad's Al-Sadr city. The banners read, "Iraq is the Quran nation." They are protesting against the recent disrespect of the Quran in Denmark and Sweden in the past few days. This self-flagellation is a sheer religious ritual to express anger, sadness and grief. "We demand the Danish and Swedish governments to refrain from these actions," said this protester. Protesters stormed the Swedish embassy in the Iraqi capital, but were dispersed by security forces, with similar scenes around the Danish embassy. In Yemen, protesters burnt the US and Israeli flags. This protest was organized by the Houthi movement that controls much of the northwest of the country and the capital, Sana'a. Protesters held up copies of the Quran as they chanted slogans denouncing the burning of the holy book of Islam. There were similar scenes in Karachi, Pakistan. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has suspended the status of Sweden's special envoy over a string of Quran burnings in Stockholm. The organization that represents 57 Muslim-majority nations said Sunday that the suspension was due to the granting by Swedish authorities of licenses that enable the repeated abuse of the sanctity of the Holy Quran and Islamic symbols. Denmark's Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Sunday condemned the burning of the Quran, calling it a shameful act that disrespects the religion of others. It added, however, that freedom of expression and freedom of assembly must be respected. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Chief Executive John Lee arrived in Indonesia earlier today as part of his week-long ASEAN tour. The CE was welcomed upon his arrival in Jakarta this morning by representatives of the Chinese embassy in Indonesia and members of the Southeast Asian nation's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Lee, along with Trade and Development Council Chairman Peter Lam and other delegation members, will attend a banquet organized by the Chinese embassy. Sources say that the chief executive met with Indonesian President Joko Widodo this morning and will also meet ASEAN Secretary General Kao Kim Horn. Lee will depart for Malaysia on the 27th before returning to the city on Saturday. Back at home, immigration officers have busted a syndicate that produced fake contracts for foreign domestic helpers to apply for visas and stay in Hong Kong. Authorities have arrested 2 Filipino men. Sharon Tang reports.
The 2 suspects were handcuffed and taken away by officers from the Immigration Department. Officers also seized bank statements, photocopies of passports and checkbooks. Earlier, immigration officers, in vetting applications for foreign domestic helper visas, found some of the documents submitted to the department suspicious. The cases were then referred to the Anti-Illegal Migration Agency for further investigation. Initial findings show that a syndicate was collecting between $20,000 and $40,000 for each counterfeit contract they produced. Authorities believe the group has been in operation for 6 months and collected over $1.2 million from visa applicants. The Anti-Illegal Migration Agency said most of the foreign domestic helpers involved are currently working in Hong Kong. The syndicate also used fake addresses and income proofs in support of the application. Authorities raided an apartment in Jordan this morning and arrested 2 Filipino men who are core members of the syndicate. So far, more than 50 people, mainly foreign domestic helpers, have been arrested in the operation. Some of them have been prosecuted for being illegal workers, making false statements, conspiracy to launder money, and conspiracy to defraud. Meanwhile, authorities have also revoked about a dozen successful visa applications that involved the use of fake contracts. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
The High Court has approved the Hong Kong Golf Club's request for a judicial review of the environmental impact report on the government's plan to build public housing on part of the Fanling Golf Course. The hearing will take place in the middle of next month. Back in May, the Environmental Protection Department, or EPD, conditionally approved the government's environmental report for public housing construction on the Fanling Golf Course, under which housing density must be decreased. The golf club believes the EPD's assessment is unfair. The court ordered the environmental body's approval to be put on hold until the hearing has been completed. This as authorities planned to take back 32 hectares of land from the Fanling Golf Course in September to build more than 10,000 public housing units. And the week-long Hong Kong Book Fair came to an end at 5 p.m. today. A number of publishers and vendors offered discounts to customers in a bid to clear out their stock. As Timothy Lee reports, some exhibitors noted this year's business was much better than last year.
Scores of visitors made their way to the Convention and Exhibition Center to make their final dash for their favorite pieces of literature at the annual book fair. Several people even came with suitcases for the task. A number of exhibitors offered big price cuts on the final day of the fair, selling their books for just $10 instead of $100. Many young people came today in hopes of buying discounted fantasy novels as well as educational material.
I saw there are a lot of deals on non-fiction books, so I might be trying to grab a few of them. And also if I can find any good fiction books. I'm still browsing, but there are a lot of deals.
I am here for the clearance sales. I'm pretty happy with the amount of bargains that I found this year already. Half price off a set of reference materials for physics.
Some exhibitors were pleased with this year's sales, saying the opening of the Exhibition Center MTR station and an influx of mainland visitors had boosted business. Many of them continued offering more special discounts just hours before the closing of the event.
We aim to try to clear all our inventories today, so we are offering starting from afternoon, we are offering a buy one get one free and very low, maybe 25% off discount on other products as well.
We were selling Christian books and those children's related books picture books, and we're also selling some courses catering to those who are interested in like mental health and spiritual health. We are offering like 20 to 32% discount off to our customers from day one of this book exhibition.
Some book vendors are offering discounts of up to 90% at the book fair. Hours before the end of the event, residents continue to flood into the Convention and Exhibition Center in search for the best book deals. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.